I want to spend a few minutes talking about why correlations are useful in real life or in the real world. Correlations are useful in real life because they allow us to make predictions. They make the world at least somewhat predictable. And I'll share at least two examples of situations in which a person could use a correlation to make a prediction. So imagine that one of your friends tells you that he or she eats out at a restaurant 4 days per week, and you want to make a prediction about how much money your friend is spending at restaurants per week. What you could do is you could think, well, a typical restaurant meal is $20 on average, so 4 times 20 equals 80. So my friend is probably spending roughly $80 per week on restaurants, on restaurant food. And if you made that prediction, you could be at least somewhat confident that your prediction is in the ballpark, or at least pretty close. Now, that prediction of $80 probably isn't perfectly accurate. The true amount probably isn't exactly $80, but if you made that prediction, you would be at least somewhat confident that your guess is somewhere in the nearby area of the truth. And now imagine that that a that a that one of your coworkers tells you that he or she is 35 years old, and you want to make a prediction about how many years this person has left until retirement. Well, you could think that the typical, well, your thought process could be that the typical retirement age is 65. So this person probably has about 30 years left until retirement. And if you made that prediction, your prediction might not be perfectly accurate. And it probably is at least a little bit off, maybe by a few months at least. But you can be, if you made that prediction, you could be at least somewhat confident that your prediction is pretty close. The person probably does have roughly 30 years left until retirement. So those are just two examples of using a correlation to make a prediction in everyday life. And when I say make a prediction, I don't mean making a perfectly accurate prediction, because most situations in real life don't allow for perfectly accurate predictions. There are some exceptions. For example, if a person tells you that he or she slept 5 hours last night, you could say with 100% certainty that your friend was awake 19 hours that day, because there's 24 hours in a day and 5 plus 19 is 24. So there are some exceptions, but most situations in real life don't allow for perfectly accurate predictions. So what I'm meaning is, if if you know that two variables have a correlation, you can use the value on one variable to make an educated guess about the value on the other variable. If you know one value and you don't know the other, you can use the value that you do know to make an educated guess about the unknown value. And that's why correlations are useful in everyday life. And there's probably quite a few situations in your life in which you've used a correlation to make a prediction. And I'll just throw out a few possible examples. Maybe, maybe you've been to the beach on a hot day, or maybe you've been driving to the beach on a hot day at some point in the past, and you thought that the beach is probably going to be pretty busy today. Well, if that's what you were thinking, then you were using a correlation to make a prediction, because you were thinking, I know that there's a correlation between the weather being hot and the beach being crowded, so that's why I think that the beach will be crowded today. Or maybe you've been to maybe you've been to some type of public location like a cafe or a restaurant to get some work done on your laptop. And when you arrive at that place, you see that the place is pretty crowded with people who are ordering food. And maybe in that situation, you thought that this place is going to be pretty noisy, so I'm probably not going to get very much work done unless I put in some earphones. Well, if that's what you were thinking, then you were using a correlation to make a prediction. You were thinking, I know that there's a correlation between the number of people at a restaurant and the amount of noise that's being made at the restaurant by the customers. So since the restaurant is crowded today, I think that it's probably going to be noisy as well. That's what you were thinking. That's the prediction you were making. So People use correlations to make predictions all the time in everyday life, and that's why correlations are helpful.